All right.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. My name is Grant Kastner. I am Extempore's community manager, and welcome to this joint presentation with us at Extempore and our friends at Avant. More Learning. This is Powering Up Written Proficiency, presented by myself, Grant Kastner, and my new friend at Avant. Go ahead, Amanda.
Amanda Manillo. Hi, everyone.
This is part of Extempore's 2022 PD Extravaganza, and hope you all enjoy today. I'm going to let Amanda take over for a little bit, and then we will do all the learning today and get talking.
All right. Oh, my screen just vanished. Do you guys see my screen?
We see your screen. The slides. There you go. They're back.
There they are. Okay. So today we're talking about powering up written proficiency. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We're so excited to be here talking with you guys. So our learning intentions today, I am learning ways to encourage students to enhance their written communication. I'm learning how to use backwards design to help students meet target proficiency goals. I'm learning classroom activities that engage students in written communication. And the success criteria, I can identify and share power-up strategies. I can create written tasks that support students of all levels of proficiency, and I can apply ideas from today's session into my classroom. The essential question is, what steps can we take to help learners improve their written communication?
Some notes for you for today, just so you don't forget, there will be a post-webinar survey. There's a link that we'll provide to you, and once you click submit, you'll get not only a certificate of attendance, which we can send to you, and as well, you'll be able to enter yourself into our PD giveaway. So as soon as you complete some of you may have been to some of our other workshops already, you get 3 total entries for the giveaway, as with every feedback survey that you submit for us. And if you use hashtag Extempore PD on Twitter, you can earn yourself a 4th entry in our giveaway for the PD Extravaganza, which is a $50 gift card to Target, so that you can restock and have everything that you need for, 5 $50 gift cards to Target, one of which that you can win, so that you can restock for this year. Oh, and of course, just a very beginning opening question for us today, waterfall chat. Put your answers in the chat. What does written communication look like in your language classroom? Feel free to share. Be happy to hear some examples, just to see where we're coming from, what background we have on written communication, what we do with presentational writing. What does it look like in your classroom? What examples can you give us today? Amanda, I can give some examples of some things that I've done in my classes previously, even though I won't be teaching next year. I really like using, I know I work for Extempore, but I like using an app called Padlet to have students look at others' responses. They can just answer a very basic opening question, and they can comment on others' responses. That's a really good way to facilitate interpersonal written communication as well as presentational. What about yourself?
So I like to do like Google Docs, but have them share it with a partner, and it's like an AIM chat, because I come from the time when people used to AIM chat together. So
raise your hand if you use AIM. I did too. Yes, we are legends, last of a dying breed, even though AIM isn't available anymore. We have some responses in the chat. Ali Deonis says, kids texting in the target language and screenshots submitted to the teacher. I love that. Fantastic. Delandra says note pass activities. Fantastic. Caitlin says whiteboard and anchor charts. Antonella, in lower levels, it looks like sentences and descriptions of images. Totally fine. In upper levels, they write journal prompts in which they write paragraphs about specific prompts. Awesome. These are great. These are really good starter activities. And then May adds, she started using backwards design to do some writing. 3 questions, and we discuss them in class and write them in class. It takes the whole class. Awesome. These are good examples.
May is touching on our words from our learning targets. So I like to start my lessons off with an attention getter. So I'm going to try to capture your attention right now. I have a little video. All I want you to do is try to write 30 words about what happened. So if you have a piece of paper, or if you want to type it, that's fine too. I need at least 30 words about what happened. And I'm going to play the video. Are we all ready? All right. Okay, we got a couple ads towards the end. Oh, hold on. Sorry, there we go. Okay, so can you guys still see my screen? So
we can see it now.
Oh, perfect. So the directions were to write at least 30 words about what happened. Can anybody put in the chat something like some of the words that they came up with? So I see in there, her dumpling came to life and she came to love it. It shows love, loss, and acceptance of change. Oh, that's deep. So my question for you guys, did anyone literally write words, like a list of words? Raise your hand because I hope somebody did. Normally, I always have at least one person who just writes just words, like Chun Mei, she wrote overprotective. And the idea is, did you meet my unspoken expectations? I just said write 30 words. Some of you, most of us, are overachievers because we're teachers. So we were in whatever language writing things like we see here. She came to love it. It shows love, loss, acceptance. Not all of our students are going to be able to do that.
Amanda, do you want to go full screen with the slides?
Oh, yes, I do.
Yeah.
Are they not? Thank you. Are they there?
Yeah, your browser is still showing, but it's there.
Oh, I don't know why they're doing that. Well, that's okay.
Go to the bottom left. You should be able to enter full screen.
I think it's full screen. Let me see. Oh, thank you. There we go. Okay. Thanks, Grant. So did you guys at least write 30 words? I hope we did. Those were my unspoken expectations. Did you complete connected sentences and tell a sequential story? That was one of my expectations. Did you write in past tense? As I said, what happened? Did you write in past tense? Did you use transition words? Did you say, next, he did this? Did you use complex sentences and vocabulary? And did you write at least 5 details? Did anybody somehow magically read my mind and do all of those things? Anybody? Oh, perfect. Oh, and the last one, did you use a variety of structures? Did you start each sentence differently? So if you didn't meet my expectations, and we're a small enough group in here, so you don't have to put it in the chat. But if you didn't meet my expectations, what areas did you struggle in? Can somebody just put in there, I'll speak in the chat, and then unmute yourself. What areas did you struggle in? Okay. Shalmara?
Yeah, so I guess just the analysis and not knowing exactly what the purpose of the activity was for.
Yeah, absolutely. So we struggled because we didn't really know what the goal was. How could and some people said watching the video and keeping up with the writing, right? Because some of us were like looking, we're writing, it's all a lot at once. How could I, as the teacher, have prepared you for success? Show an example first. Thank you, Caitlin. Anyone else? It's okay, you're allowed to critique me. I did it on purpose so that y'all could critique me. Give an introduction. Thank you, May. Anything else? A checklist. Absolutely. A template. Anything else? All right, those are all great answers. A rubric, Caitlin. Ask a question that's related to the video. Absolutely, these are great answers. So today we're going to talk about the pathway to proficiency. I think one of the first things that was said was we didn't really know what we were supposed to be doing, right? So the idea for the pathway to proficiency, you need to know where you're headed. If you don't know where you're going, you're never going to get there. So if we're looking at presentational writing and speaking indicators, we see novice low says individual words. Now, can anybody tell me, and you're allowed to unmute or put in the chat, what is the power up? What do we see improve from novice mid? If we're doing words in novice low, what do we need to be doing in novice mid? What do we see the difference here?
Connecting.
Yes, absolutely. We can connect some basic subjects and verbs. What about novice high?
Adding details.
We're adding details. Do we see that in there? What else do we see? What type of structures are we doing? Are we doing words still?
Sentences.
We're doing simple sentences. What about intermediate low? I think someone said this one earlier. A variety, absolutely. A variety of detail. Now we see prepositional phrases, helping verbs, adverbs, adjectives. So we see a lot more things here, right? What about with intermediate mid? So we've gone from simple sentences, a variety of simple sentences, or with more complex things here. What about intermediate mid? Expanded vocabulary, I see. Anything else? So here we're going to see groupings of ideas. And they're going to be connected, those ideas. We're going to have transition words, and we may even use more than the simple present tense. Now, when we get to intermediate high, we're able to use circumlocution to get our point across. We have a variety of different time frames, and we can switch with them. And this is when we're starting to see accuracy. Is there any questions about that? So if I know where my goals or what my goals are, if I know my performance goals, I'm able to do the pathway to proficiency with my students. And this is what it's going to look like. First, I'm going to choose a purpose. What is the motivation? What's the purpose to do the task? Then I'm going to pick my goals. I'm going to start with the end in mind. So we know our goal maybe is novice high. And we say, okay, that's going to be our goal for performance and proficiency. And then the sky is the limit. And this is important. We want to create a task that doesn't limit what students can produce. So if I ask students to write one sentence or two sentences, they're only going to write that. And so they're not going to be able to show that they actually know more than what my task expects. We're going to articulate the goals. So we're going to set clear and realistic expectations. A lot of you wanted that. And we're going to show power up. So we're going to provide opportunities for students to exceed our expectations. And we're going to tell them how they can do that. And I always like to throw in there, it's okay to take risk. When we inform students that mistakes show growth. And I always use the example of, in French, we say, je m'appelle Amanda. My name is Amanda. But when students start, but it doesn't have the word is, so je m'appelle Amanda. But as soon as they start to learn the verb to be, sometimes they'll say, je m'appelle Amanda. And while that is incorrect, that actually shows that they're improving in their proficiency because they have more abilities with the language. It's no longer memorized. And so then the idea is at the end, you want to build proficiency thinkers. So you want to provide them the tools and knowledge needed to think proficiency on their own. And Grant's going to show you some of those tools. So this is what it's going to look like now. So I took y'all's advice and I set clear and realistic expectations. So what I'm going to do is I have some visuals already ready for you guys from the video. I'm going to set a real world purpose for the task. You and your friend went and saw a touching story at the movie theater. Tell your family about it. I have a task that doesn't cap proficiency. So pretend that you are your students. Let's say you're a novice low. I'm going to ask my novice low students to write, what do you see? There is a woman. There is a boy. There is a dad. And so they're going to be able to write just the there is, for example, using the words. For novice mid, I might ask them to describe the people, places, and emotions. He is, it is, he has. For novice high, I might ask them to tell about the activities each person does. Intermediate low, maybe I now ask them to tell why they do them. Intermediate mid, a series of connected events. So when the boy blank, the man blank. So they're going to start telling that story. And maybe they're going to start using the past tense. Maybe I ask them, would you recommend this movie? Why or why not? Intermediate high, based off of what you read, tell what will happen in the sequel to this film. What should the mom do? Or use the past tense to tell the story again. And then advanced, maybe I'm going to ask them to describe the symbolism of the dumpling and the cultural perspectives linked to it. And then, of course, to prepare them for success, I would have modeled this language before playing the video. So I would have let them know there is going to be a dumpling. This is a dumpling boy, maybe. This is a son. This is a dad. This is a mom. Any vocabulary that would be really important to help them tell the story, I'm going to model that ahead of time. Are there any questions about this? All right. And so, of course, here, let's say that you were a novice high student and you wanted to score higher. Well, I guess that's my next slide. Sorry, I'm skipping. Would you be able to participate in the creation of the story no matter your abilities? Yes or no? Okay, yeah. How is the activity successful in catering to the needs of each learner? Could this be equivalent to the WIDA standards? Caitlin, that is a great question. So WIDA standards are different than world language standards, but I do find that language acquisition, power up strategies would also be useful, if that makes sense. Like if you're teaching students to power up, if you know the WIDA standards, you can absolutely accommodate the WIDA standards to this. Good question. So the idea is the activity can cater to the needs of any learner, right? I could play that video with an advanced class. I could play it with a novice class and just cater my questions to their expectations. Yes. So Shalmara, am I saying that right? Shalmara says each student, no matter their ability, can participate. And as a student, if you wanted to prove a higher proficiency, how were you aware of what would be expected at the next level? Does anybody know? You can just unmute.
I would think by the prompts, because you said on there you could tell if they wanted to fill in a blank or if they wanted to do this. So you can tell by which one that they're actually going to be doing as far as the task is concerned.
Absolutely. And so the idea is so for my level 3s, I might not would give them this novice low part, but maybe I would give them the intermediate low to the intermediate high so that they can see, okay, maybe I'm typically scoring here. That's the expectation, but I know what is expected at the next level. Thank you, Melanie.
You're welcome.
And so the idea is we're always going to start with the proficiency end in mind. Grant?
Yes, thank you, Amanda. So we're going to do a little transition here, and I just wanted to add. So, Amanda, if you don't mind, can we switch screen sharing while I take over? Thank you, Amanda, for that and for that beginning part. I wanted to just add on to something that Amanda shared with us just in that one of those previous slides. If you guys remember, the advanced low task was to talk about the cultural significance right behind the dumpling and the symbolism found within the video. I think it's important to forget, it's important not to forget about the intercultural standards that are present within tasks like this. And so if you have, novice low, novice mid, novice high learners, they're obviously with their language level, they're not going to be able to talk about these cultural topics in the target language, right? But when you have a video like that, where there's a lot of cultural background like embedded within it, it gives students who might not be as comfortable sharing in the target language an opportunity to participate in, say, their shared language, which perhaps will be English in your classroom, right? So then maybe they don't, like I said, maybe they don't feel comfortable with speaking in the target language, but they can at least contribute something related to the culture to improve their intercultural communication. And that you can see right here in this little actual can-do statements, indicators for language learners for novice and intermediate when it comes to intercultural communication. Just a quick note, don't forget about cultural standards. To continue, okay, going back to that reflection question that Amanda posted earlier, that last one, as a student, if you wanted to improve.
The screen is black.
Oh, no, is it really? Is it sharing or no?
No.
Yeah, you can't see it.
Let's try again.
There we go.
Thank you for speaking up so I didn't have to embarrass myself all the time. Oh, wait, Amanda, can you?
I've got it pulled up for you if you need it.
Oh, okay. Can you go back a slide? That's totally fine. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, hold on. Let me stop share. Sorry.
Okay, that's okay.
Okay, there we go.
All right. Well, 1 second. Sorry. I love technical.
Can you see it now?
Okay, we're good. Okay, everyone can see Amanda's screen?
Yes.
Hopefully that wasn't too much of a problem. Okay, coming back to this. Coming back to the reflection question. As a student, if you wanted to prove a higher proficiency, how were you aware of what would be expected at the next level? I wanted to add on to this question and provide a resource that I came up with specifically for this presentation to show you just that. How can we help our students be aware of what's at the next level while also giving them a bit of a checklist to say, hey, did I do what I needed to do for this task? Amanda, next slide. If we create opportunities for students to exceed, if you can click through this, but keep the slide up if you don't mind. One of the common tasks that we have for a novice level class might be you tell students to describe their family. Well, what type of product are you going to get when you do that? And Amanda, if you could click through, if you don't mind, but keep it up. There you go. This is something we do very often. And the purpose of this task is not just to describe a family, but so that at the end of the day, you can describe other people, right? That's a common thing that we do in the language classroom, outside of the language classroom, being able to describe other people. What type of response are you going to get? So I want to use this type of task to look at a checklist for a presentational writing assessment that you can do within your target language classes. What's going to happen if we do this type of assessment? Okay, click through. Next slide.
So, well, and just a
Okay,
quick
go ahead.
note on this. So like he was saying, like if you have asked them to talk about their family, a lot of us look like our family, right? A lot of us have the same color eyes, the same color hair. So the idea is you don't want to let your task set their ceiling. So if you're doing this over here, and like he was saying, if you have a different family, let's say this is their family, or let's say they choose people entirely different. This person has different physical features. That's more challenging to describe. These people have historical backgrounds. And so you could have a novice learner describe this person, but then it could also be an advanced learner who could talk about the history. So you haven't set the ceiling to the task.
And that's the whole purpose behind this checklist that you see here. So you see this presentational writing checklist. There's a lot of text here. We're going to break it down piece by piece so that you understand. But the purpose of this checklist is for students to be able to self-assess, right? This is something that you could print out. There's two sides to it. We'll see the other side that they can have and look at every single time they have a presentational writing assignment, or even interpersonal for that matter, that they can use to self-assess. My presentational writing self-assessment, and then they would go through each one of these that we'll talk about, and they can check off what it is. The thing that I was considering and contemplating as I was making this, because you'll see that compared to the rubrics that Amanda was showing earlier, they're pretty wordy, they're kind of long. This is designed to be in student-friendly language, versus in terms of the design and the flow of how it goes together, something that students can follow on their own when they're doing presentational writing tasks. And then the idea behind this is that if you have this as a resource that's constantly available in your class and students are constantly seeing it, you get consistent use out of it, which further just cements your consistent expectations for them for their writing targets. Amanda, next slide, and we can go through it. So the first part, when it comes to self-assessing a student's task completion, I have a few bullets, so if you can click through the animations. Thank you, Amanda. First one, I fulfilled every requirement of the task. I provided all information that was requested. So a student who was going to describe their family, did they describe their family? Did they describe every person in their family? Did they give relevant background? They said, okay, this is how old this person is. This is what grade they're in. This is what they like to do. They said as much as they possibly could. Orange, you have the little smiley emoji. Almost there, but not quite. I responded to the prompt, but only provided some of what was required. I'm missing some important pieces of information. So they're almost there, right? That's self-assessing and say, hey, maybe you only described 2 out of 4 people in your family. Well, you're getting there. I did not complete, and then red, I did not complete the target task. Significant pieces are still missing from my response, right? Very easy. Task completion, almost done. Sorry, Amanda, can you go back real quick? So really easy, just saying, did I complete the task, right? And you'll see the last piece of the just the self-assessment is the looking at their writing. Here, the focus, the primary goal is the task completion. Did you complete the task, right? Where I'm not worried about how many verbs did you conjugate correctly or how many adjectives did you match properly with the nouns. Did you complete the task? And that's why this is the first one listed. Next slide, please. Awesome. Language use and word choice. How can we look at their actual writing, what they're doing? Green, awesome. I used a wide variety of target vocabulary appropriate for this task. I use connecting words and level up phrases. We'll see what those are. I have an example to enhance my writing if that's applicable. Now, things like connecting words, whether it's something like on the other hand, however, before, after, novice low, novice mid, unlikely we'll have those down, and those words probably won't be a big part of, say, units, particularly provided by textbooks, but that is something that we can provide to them should they ask for it and if they want to use them, right? So green, wide variety of target vocabulary. Orange, well, you're almost there. I used a small set of words that I know well and are appropriate for this task. They still completed the task. They did okay. It's just that they were limited in the type of language that they used. I don't have many connecting words or level up words. My sentences do not have transitions between them. And then red, I use words whose meanings I don't know well at all. I do not have any transition words or level up phrases. Amanda, I believe if you do one more click, it should pop up. Yes, okay, one more. There we go. So that last one, the red one there, has a little piece to it. So I teach Chinese. I can't believe it's taken me this long to mention this, but I previously taught Chinese. And one of the things that is important for me is that sometimes my students would ask me, well, hey, Mr. Kastner, how do I say this word? Or how do I say that word? And then I tell them, but then the next day they can come back to it and they're not going to know what that word means. They're not going to remember what it means because it was a day ago. They were exposed to it only once, and that's not enough for them to acquire that language. So when they're self-assessing, how many words do they actually know? Were they looking things up? Were they using Google Translate? And this is them. This is the students telling us, hey, I know the meanings of 100% of the words they use. I know the meanings of most of the words they use, or I know less than 50%. And if it's less than 50%, well, then that's the red flag. And that's on them. Again, this is a self-assessment that the students are doing. We're not yelling at them and saying, hey, you need to use more of the words that you know. You need to know. It's them saying, oh, well, crap, Mr. Kastner's going to be mad. I didn't use words that I actually know, right? Okay, thank you, man. So we've done task completion, language use, level up words. This is a very brief example. I know it's all in Chinese. It might be a little bit scary to you if you don't teach Chinese. That's okay. These are level up words. And this type of resource, it's not just a little slide that I have here, but it's a little strip of paper. I wish I took some from my old classroom. They're all still there, but it's a strip of paper where you have level up words. These are words like, as you can see, heard, if, it seems like, maybe, probably, to know something, actually, should, therefore, other, how to say another class, other class, the person, other food, whatever. Also, and then also as well, there's many different ways to say and in Chinese, fun fact. And then ganja, which is to feel. These words, as you see here, they're not tied to any sort of content. It's not like you say, oh, you can only use these words when talking about sports. You can only use these words when talking about food. You can only use these words if you're talking about, your family. These are content agnostic. You can talk about them. You can use them with anything, right? These are foundational pieces of language that students can take with them. Does not matter what unit they are talking about. So these are the level up words that I'm referring to in that previous slide. Next slide, please, Amanda. Thank you. Last one, comprehensibility, right? When we look at it from a student's perspective, they are self-assessing. My response contains 2 or fewer spelling errors and or careless mistakes. To me, again, the focus is not necessarily on grammar, right? We don't want them looking for grammar mistakes because if their grammar mistakes are minimum enough, then they'll have completed the task, right? And they can tell us, oh, hey, Mr. Kastner, I completed the task. Versus here, spelling, this is honestly just getting students to check their work. Please just check your work. If the amount of students that have to submit things, and there are characters that they don't know because they had a typo, or I'm assuming for Spanish and French, you always have problems with spelling, just check your work at least and don't make minor mistakes. Green, my responses contain 2 or fewer spelling errors and or careless mistakes. That's the idea. They're going to have mistakes. We want to limit the careless ones. Orange, there are some errors in my writing, but they don't significantly impact my audience's ability to understand. Fine, you have some errors, but people can still understand. Good. Red, there are lots of spelling errors and or typos in my response. Go back and fix it. Right. So you can see that each one of those red items, that's one where if the student checks out or they circle it. I mean, I'm not saying why should we accept that work, but it's a telltale sign that they need to go back and improve their response as long as they are capable of. So we have seen, I believe perhaps the next slide wraps this up, Amanda. I'm not sure. Okay, hold on, go back one more. So we have seen task completion, language use and word choice, and specifically with that, what percent of these words do I actually know? And then comprehensibility. Now, the backside of this is, to me, the fun part. How do we level up? That's the whole purpose of this presentation. Leveling up our writing, taking it to the next degree. How can we improve it? Once we've hit green on completion, word choice, and comprehensibility, how can we make it even better? Next slide, Amanda. Thank you. If we look at the back, and this is something that, again, break it down piece by piece, how can I level up my presentational writing within those same categories? Task completion, language use and word choice, and then comprehensibility. Let's break it down. Amanda. Thank you. How can I level up task completion? What can students do? 1, provide more detail. You can always provide more detail. There's always so many different things that you could say. If you're talking about your family, how many things can you say about your family? How old they are, what they like to do, where they were born, what they like to do on the weekends, what they don't like to do on the weekends, where they go to school. So many different things that you can add. Continue the conversation, ask a follow-up question, and propose alternatives. Particularly with presentational writing, there's a good chance you're responding to someone. And if you're responding to someone, there's no reason you can't say, well, what about your family? What do you like to do? What does your brother like to do? What do your sisters like to do? Who are your sister's best friends? I don't know. How many ways can you add on extra information? Level up the task completion, improve your response even more. And then finally, justify your response. Give reasons. Again, novice low, novice mid might struggle with this, but as long as you can teach them how to say because and a few basic phrases after that, then you can justify almost any response that you have. That's how we level up task completion. Leveling up language use and word choice, another fun one. Vary your sentence structure. This is one particularly for the intermediate and advanced levels. Not every sentence has to start with I or whatever the main topic is that you're talking about, including the length of them and particularly what they begin with. It does not, like I said, doesn't always have to start with I. Level up words and phrases. We saw that. On Avant's lovely, beautiful level up guides, they have something called added detail, which is pretty similar to the level up words that I use. It seems like actually I heard, on the other hand, this is why. Phrases that you can use in any language context, not tied to any sort of content whatsoever, but words that we use that just to enhance our language. Level up. And then finally, replace. This is the real challenge for your advanced students. Replace instances of is and are, basic words like and go, with more descriptive words. Also, a valid tip for writing in English as well, if you're looking to level up your own English writing. We've leveled up task completion. We've leveled up word choice. How can I level up my comprehensibility? Just to reiterate, this is a resource for students. This is what they're looking at every single time they write. Reread your response and fix spelling errors or typo. Raise your hand, nod, do something if you have to tell your students to go back and reread their responses. Me, all the time, right? Fix spelling, just be scrupulous with your responses, please. Share your response with a classmate to see if they can understand. So long as it's not a summative assessment, it's a basic formative assessment or homework assignment. If their classmates can understand, well, there's a good chance that you probably did okay on the assessment. And then replace words whose meaning you're not sure of, please, with words that you actually do know. If you're looking at words on Google Translator in your dictionary and then you come back the next day and you don't remember them, that's a problem. That's why we limit using those resources. We have leveled up task completion, word, language use and word choice. And finally, what was last? Comprehensibility, of course. Classroom logistics of the writing checklist. Just to explain how I would use something like this in my class. Unfortunately, good news is I made this resource for you to all use. The bad news is I didn't have this before this year. And so I don't get to use this in my classroom, but I feel that it would be a really valuable resource for them. A couple of things, if you can, there are a lot of things that are depending in this conversation. Print it out, both sides, front and back. There's a doc here that I will share with you in the chat so you can access it. Laminate it and keep it in your classroom, right? This is something that fits. I designed it so that the front and back, it's a half sheet of paper. And so that if you have the presentational writing self-assessment and then leveling up on the backside, it's a half sheet and you can laminate those and print out however many you need for your class. Every time you have a writing assignment, this is something that you can give to your students. You set the routine, you set the expectations for what you're doing in your class, particularly when it comes to presentational writing. And that way, the students are constantly self-assessing. Mr. Kastner, I'm done. Mr. Kastner, I'm done. Did you do this? Did you do the self-assessment? No, I didn't do it. Okay, you need to do the self-assessment, right? Making it part of the presentational writing routine. That's why I would just emphasize, I mean, you can use this as a digital resource, but when they have the physical copy right in front of them and it's a half sheet, reason why I like half sheets because it's not as demanding. And then it's like part one, here's the first side, part two, here's the back side. It's a bit more digestible. That's why I like using the front and back as a half sheet. Keep it laminated. That way your kids aren't folding it up and destroying them the second I give them to you, or you give them to them. And then again, using them and having students adding their own scores as a response. Yes, May, like I said, I will put this is linked in the slides. You see how writing checklist is underlined. That's literally the link to the document. Thank you, Amanda, for putting that in the chat. Appreciate it. You should be able to do it. And then the last thing with this, experiment. I unfortunately, like I said, I don't have any experience using this checklist. I feel very confident in it, though. I feel like it would be a valid resource. Experiment with your students. See how they do with it. See how they do with when they submit a presentation or writing response and they say, okay, smiley, smiley, and then frowny face for the last one. See how it goes. Experiment with it. Like I said, right? That's what teaching is all about. Steal the resources we provide you and do whatever you want with them and try to learn how to best use them in your classes. Next slide. The last thing I would like to share, if I believe you can relinquish sharing privileges, Amanda, is this platform Extempore that I am here presenting on behalf of to show you a very basic example of what a presentational writing assessments, I can find it here, would look like on the Extempore platform. Can we see my screen? Please say yes.
No.
No.
Hold on, I'm gonna try. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna try. Hold on.
Do you want to send it to me and I'll help you navigate it?
It's gonna be hard. I'm gonna try. I'm sharing the actual. This is such a bummer. I'm sharing the thing. I'm gonna try sharing my desktop and see if that works instead. Hopefully it does. If not, I'm gonna be really sad. Yes or no?
Still black screen.
No.
God, I'm so sad. Okay. Well, I will just have to cry.
Do you-
Anyways, so with Extempore, Extempore is a language assessment platform. If my screen sharing was working, I'd be showing you an example right now. What you can do is you can create various types of assessments within the platform, and you can use them to host presentational writing, presentational speaking, interpersonal speaking, any type of interpretive reading, interpretive listening. You can host them on the Extempore platform, and then within you can create. Yeah, so thank you, man. I appreciate that. This is really the example I was going to show you. So you'll see here, this is the student side of the app, where presentational writing, you can, as Amanda showed earlier, I have a video clip here. It's very basic, it's very generic, but you can ask 3 different questions for each level and see what they can come up with. Novice, describe what you see. Very basic. Use words, buildings, sky, plane, car, right? Intermediates, where might this be? Why do you think it's in that location? And then finally, advanced, describe the decisions that one might have to take when moving to a place like this. So on the assessment platform of Extempore, you can host various types of questions and have students use the target language to respond to these questions. You'll see the little text box right there. They can type out their response and they click submit, and they've completed that question on the assessment and move on to the next one. And then to pair it with the writing checklist that I mentioned earlier, you can have your students look at their previous response, and then you say, okay, now within your response, before they click submit, like I said, they can hold that resource, the checklist, and say, okay, I think I got a 1 on this part, I got a 1 on this part, and I won this part. Having that self-assessment being a critical part of the writing experience. I have talked a lot. Amanda, go ahead, share your resources.
And I wanted to share with you guys resources that Avant has for you. And I actually, before I was working with Avant, I actually used these in the classroom. They were like my holy grail. So here you can find a scoring rubric, and here's our website that has it linked. And then we also have student guides that are similar to what Grant showed, but these are actually guides that we give students after they complete the Avant assessment, but they can also be used in the classroom. So if you look at our student guide, it breaks it down. So if a kid scores novice mid, it says at this level, this is what I can do. And then it tells them already the power up things that they need to do. So this is a pre-made guide that you can have that gives them, kind of like Grant had, a self-assessment of, if you told them, hey, novice mid, they can look at it and it says specifically, these are the things I can do with my functions and structures. These are the things I can do with my text type to improve my proficiency to the next level. And we have that novice through advanced. I also, for you guys, have linked some fun writing tasks. It is a list of 23 writing tasks that you can do in the classroom to engage your students in fun activities that involve writing. And that's just a little bonus for today's presentation.
Of course, Extempore has, we have our own resources here. We have the link to the writing checklist. These slides are already uploaded to the Sketch platform. Sorry, it was crazy. These slides are already uploaded to the Sketch platform. You can find the writing checklist. Our blog has a lot of stuff on writing. Check out our main YouTube channel where you'll find the recorded version of this presentation, as well as our Extempore Bytes YouTube channel where you can find short help videos on how to use the platform. And of course, don't forget, in the next one of the next slides, please complete the survey and check out all of our social media. Follow us everywhere you go. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube for us. Avant social media is there. Extempore social media is there. And this, as I've said multiple times, this recording will be posted on various social channels for you to access later on. Amanda?
Absolutely. And thank you guys for attending.
Thank you all so much. I will put the link to the giveaway form, the feedback form, of course, into the chat. Don't forget to fill it out, or you can just scan the QR code and hashtag power up. I believe Amanda, I don't know. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank
If you
you.
have questions or comments, we're happy to answer them at this time.
Thank you. That was very helpful.
Thanks, Melanie.
Thanks very much.
Thank you, Ali.
Where can I-
Then I'm gonna stop recording and we can wind down.
All right.